Okay, we'll call our workshop to order at 6:37 PM. We have a pretty short agenda tonight. The original agenda did show Nautic ambulance presenting an operating budget. That has been moved to April. But they will be part of the capital budget. Allison's got a few things to present. So we start with
Why did you didn't be last?
okay, well, the first one is there's a on the agenda, there's a line for special public appropriations. That's been in the budget for as long as I can recall, and that's an opportunity for the taxpayer to present any budget proposal. I don't think it's ever been done. I don't ever remember that.
Ask if anyone's here.
Does anyone here want to propose anything in the budget that is not part of a department?
Hearing none, we'll move on.
Moving on, okay. Allison will take the next couple. Estimated wage increase when the union and non-union together. This will roll right one to the other.
Right, so we're taking an estimate on, we'll start with non-union. We took an estimate, an average of what we cannot disclose
Okay.
of, potential increases that, can be proposed after the budget's approved.
Sure.
So the estimate was 63,385. I will say historically, we've never reached the amount that we budgeted, and it's almost always a surplus.
I have a comment, if you don't mind.
No.
Mayor, we budgeted this, I know Bob Neff sent an email, I think it was a month ago. The non-union, we have not had a non-union meeting for last year. Usually have it in August and September.
Yeah, I thought you just had one,
Did you go to one?
but it was
We
one.
did just have one.
Excuse
It was
me?
me, Charlie, and John Lawler were the only ones that were there.
Well, I never received a notice because I'm on the committee.
Yeah, no, you were sent to one.
No, I was not.
Well, you were on those. You're still on it, is what I'm saying.
Okay,
Will we be getting something from them to indicate what they
It's
found?
under review because, there are some issues that I'm gonna resolve.
So
I'd like to see, forward me the email that was sent to me, please.
Allison?
Who is that? Who sends that out? Bob, who did you get it from?
I think a letter came in the mail. Cause there were no.
I don't
Zoom-
recall, but all I know is I recalled I went to a meeting and Charlie Marangi was there also, along with John Lawler.
Charlie, okay, Charlie replaced Dan. And so Diane, Charlie, Bob, and Carl Herb was no longer there.
And I
so-
think Fran Dembowski's on that committee.
Right.
No. Charlie took Fran's place.
Okay,
I was the chair.
I know, well, you're still,
Well, I'm the chair and I don't get notice and nobody notices
Well, maybe
that.
you were away. I don't know. I mean, all I know is I was there.
just look it up right now.
No, well, no, Bob, what I'm saying is, I never
Allison,
got the
look it up.
notice.
Just look it up, because the whole thing is too dramatic for me, so let's just end it and let me hear, I just would like to know though, because I got a lot of complaints about a meeting not having been held, and I
Right,
went out of my way to set it up, and I didn't go.
and that's why I brought it up tonight, because I didn't know there was a
Yeah,
meeting.
so let's see what happens. For you newcomers, I'm an anti-drama person.
That's all right, let's move on. We'll talk later.
I'll just keep looking and I'll let you know.
Let's
once it
just
comes
talk
up.
later. Let's just keep moving.
All right. So we go down the presentation for. Yeah, oh, yeah, Delma's gotta come in as a panelist, so. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Okay, just saying. Are we good as far as the proposal for the non-union and union rate increases? Of note, the
Placeholders.
placeholders and with the union wage increases have gone down considerably. Consider police and fire contracts are settled this year.
What contracts are for this?
Street, Town Hall, 8990.
Thank you.
We jump on another, hopefully it's like contingency. Contingency,
You want me to explain?
yeah, you might, yeah.
So, last year, well, we raised our contingency 100,000 a year, but last year we took the hit, so to speak, to set up a permanent contingency in sort of like a reserve account. So that money, 1.1 million is there, Allison, do we have to add 100,000 to it?
Correct.
So in the budget, it will not be 1.2 million, it will be 100,000. Because we reserved 1,100,000 permanently last year. So shouldn't this say 100,000?
No,
No?
because the 1.1 million will be on the revenue side to wash out 1.1 million on this, and then it'll net to 100,000.
Okay, but do you understand what it's,
No, but that's okay.
well, we
I'm
already,
the only, if I'm the only one, that's fine.
no,
Diane.
last year, we took $1.1 million
Mhm.
and put it into an account to remain there permanently for contingency, so we don't have to appropriate that money every year. It was actually a prudent move.
Mhm.
So the only impact to the budget will be the 100,000 if we elect to increase it from 1.1 to 1.2.
And I jump in now with non-union. The email was sent out on February 17th for a meeting on February 23rd. It was sent out by Nancy Tamayo. It was sent to Diane, James, Bob Neff, Charlie Meringue, John Lawler, and myself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want me to forward it to you again?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I just forwarded that to Nancy, to all of you that are on the committee.
Thank you.
Okay, what do the auditors recommend our contingency? The percentage,
Excuse me?
what's the recommended level for a contingency long-term?
So it's 1.5 million. So, I mean, that's the number in my head, but it's,
Wasn't it 1 mil?
I forget the calculation, or the formula, but the answer was 1.5
Okay, so we're building
million.
up to a
It
level.
was supposed to be building up to 1.5 million.
It's like around 10% of the budget.
By the way, I should note, I like to say this every year, that in my 7.5 years as mayor, I've never spent 5 cents from contingency. Gotta be a record.
It has to be. This,
Well, as we build it up, it is going to be like as we build it up and we hold it in reserve, it's roughly a mil that we're saving the
Yeah.
town by having that fund.
any other comments on contingency? Want to go right into, capital projects? Capital projects, we have here about one item from the assessor, a list from technology, a list from fire department and EMS. So we're gonna do the tech.
And this isn't on here.
Well,
It's included.
we talk about the capital, one.
No, it's not in my search thing, but it's part of the total. So the assessor for $50,000 a year, which is a standard budget request to build a balance toward the reval. So that's gonna be a consistent 50,000 every year, and that's in the line item for this year.
That's just an ongoing every year.
And so technology.
Jim,
Jim's here.
where's Jim?
I'm over here.
Okay, Jim, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Good evening all. So, this year's capital request is running with the revolving, life cycle that we have for the last several years. From our PC replacements, which are for all town, all public works, police, et cetera. With about 102,000 that we've been using. I've been holding that number. although costs have come up, we're still able to get the equipment that we're needing, and we're on a life cycle replacement, as we call it. Moving down, I've got another life cycle replacement for, what they call VM host. It's, one server that can run multiple servers. They average about 25,000. It's what I spent last time for the last server was around 24 and change, so I budgeted for 25,000 to replace that one. As I have one that's coming out of support at the end of this calendar year.
Okay, Jim, they said, was it, since, we'll do the same with the fire department, since you have such a lengthy list. Rather than read the whole thing down, just want to see if anyone has questions after you go each item,
Certainly.
rather than,
Okay.
okay.
Well, then I'll pause right there, because I've given out 2 items. Does anybody have any questions on the first 2 items?
Okay.
All right, item 3, we have a Nimble server for the police department, which is basically a storage server. So it's basically one large server that sits in a rack. It has a lot of hard drives in it, a ton of storage that we can use for everything that goes on at PD, and that's averaging about 70 grand. Questions on that one?
Well, I see that the sports ending in December on the existing units.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're putting them through at this point to get them into the budget, so should they be approved, I'll start the purchasing process in around August-ish. So we can get them in, we burn them in for about a month before we put date on them, make sure that there's no issues, and then we start transferring things over. Obviously, the other servers aren't gonna stop working, but the fact that they're out of support, should there be a failure, it's hard to get parts and cards, especially in 2023.
Is it software or hardware support?
Both.
Okay.
And then I see you have it set up for 26, 27. Is that because that's when it'll expire?
Correct.
The next,
Yep, that's to keep it revolving, and I tried to come 1 year, somewhere between 8 months and a year, because there is an occasion where things will take longer to get them. In the past, there were some budget years that things got pushed out, and then I ended up back up against the wall, and I don't want to do that. Next item that we have is what they call an eVault server, which is a backup server, and it, for the fact that it's backup, it backs up the data. We have one here in the town, it sits in the rack, and basically it's backing up all the data from the other servers. It doesn't need a tremendous amount of computing power, it just needs space for it. And that's 15,000, that's in its replacement cycle also. These were all purchased on or around 2019 to 2020. Moving on to the next guy that we have here in the list, we've got some battery replacements that are aging out also in the communications room at PD. These UPSs are what keep, should there be a power failure before the generator spins up, make sure everything stays online, and then they break off. We have to replace them every so many years just because they're lead acid and they go in their company.
And those are just the server side UPS, not the building UPS.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just for that particular room.
Okay.
Next item that I have on here is one of my Sonic walls that we have here at Town Hall. The original was purchased in 2020. It was in a COVID buy as we were trying to expand our infrastructure to be able to handle remote computing. That one is aging out, and I would like to replace that one to stay current. As we are still working in a hybrid environment, and we'll probably always be in a hybrid environment. That's 5100. Any questions, comments, thoughts on that?
Okay, hand up here.
Okay, next item are the MDTs, or the mobile data terminals that we use in squad cars. They're up. We've added one more. We're doing them in phases. So we were doing them in replacements of 6. The request this year from Chief McAllister is a bump it to 7. And obviously with the cost of COVID and everything else, things have gone up. But the 47,432 are for 7 complete setups. That's the mouse, the entire MDT, anything else that's needed for the car, out the door, mounted in the vehicle, and ready for the officers to use. Those are replacements all done, but they're just going to stay on the life cycle to those.
How old is your existing one?
Right now, they're on an average, the oldest are 3 years. And what we're doing is we're replacing them in a cycle as we replace the cars, we're replacing the terminals also.
So these are going in the new vehicles that hopefully are
Yes,
coming?
correct. Unless we have a failure, we won't take one out of an existing vehicle because we'll buy them out for the new. I believe the new Ford Explorers that we hopefully will be getting. I defer to our fleet manager, at the head of the table on that. But that's what it's spec for.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any other comments or questions on the MDTs? All right, we have a new item. Something that, Chief Russell and I were working on. For the East Side Fire Station, we wanted to add some additional cameras up there for security purposes. I've used the numbers that we used for the headquarters. To come up with a cost for those and conferring with the company, Panic Computer, who will be installing these at 6,100. They're the same types of cameras we're using similar on the green that we will be using at the headquarters. You can monitor via the cloud, you can log in from anywhere, we can set access to it, whether PD has it or not. It would just put it up on the screen, so if there's an issue when the gentlemen are out or around the building, we will be able to go back and look at the information. The one on the green has proved, valuable or invaluable, with some of the issues we had on the gazebo, because we can go back and it's even in high definition, and I can pull data. I've had officers come here, ask for downloads. I've even had the veteran from St. Michael's call me because there was an accident in the parking lot that the camera picked up in the after footage that I provided in to prove that the accident was actually someone else's fault. Because I could see the little black Rav back into the silver Honda. And he's like, yep, that's what one owner said. And I said, I can prove it. If you bring me a thumb drive, I'll get it. He was very happy with that.
Has there been issues up there?
At Eastside?
Mm-hmm.
Not to my knowledge, but
Okay.
at this particular point, we really should have the cameras on the building.
Oh, yeah, I was just,
Um,
I looked there.
I've also got a couple other items. Obviously, we're doing headquarters, currently right now, they're being installed. And I've also asked for cameras at Tuttle. The cameras that we have just aren't adequate. And I want to put in the same, so it's using the same console, same licensing, same everything. Deputy Chief Hanks in his fire role has been looking for the historical society had asked that we upgrade the cameras there to similar to what we have, as well as Burgess Vitality, so that we can keep on top of our building.
What's currently, at the Tuttle and, the East Side?
East side is nothing. Currently, Tuttle has an old analog setup that we can put in. Jim Stewart had a little bit of money left over when they did the rental of the building. We tried to put some stuff up because all of the downspouts and hardware were copper. These period specific, so it was critical we have it, but we have no remote access to it, and the cameras are okay at best. They're really not high definition, and I want to get better items in there so that we can have the same technology across the entire town. I'm the guy that likes to use the same type of printer, same type of hardware. At least that way you know what you're managing and you don't have this hodgepodge of, oh, we can't log into this system because somebody's got to find something else. And I like a centrally managed piece. That being said, I'll jump forward to the 4 cameras I want to put up at Tuttle. That's another 5,000. That's for the cameras. We have some wiring that's there. We'll probably have to make some modifications. We can use the internet service that's already there. We'll probably want to bolster it, but let's get the cameras in first and deal with the internet second. If that needs to be upgraded, we'll upgrade it at that time, but then we'll get it. So I'll take any questions on those 2 new items.
Jim, nothing on those, but I'd like you to reassure me that from a cyber security standpoint, we're strong and there's nothing out there we shouldn't have.
Right now, to answer your question, Mayor, we are pretty strong. The grade we got from the state was an 80.5 out of 100, so we're solid B. We can be a little bit better with it. There were some issues with the registrars that were based on where the router was and some of the cabinets. It pulled my average down as I looked at it. The aggregate average for Naugatuck is 80.5. We're working through, I will work with Matt to kind of fix the other parts of it, and we'll make some other changes, but it's a constant moving target. And, I'm gonna be buying some other software that I've been looking at so that we can run some periodic tests on our
What
own.
would our score have been but for that?
It's hard because they didn't give that part of it, they just showed the registrars was at like 60%. So if the building total is 80% and you've got a number that's at 60%, I can only imagine we must be in the 90s. You know, without that particular piece. There were some procedural changes that I have to make that pulled it down a little bit. But I still think we can be an A without too much change. Did that kind of answer your question?
Well, a two-part question. Number one, I wanna be in there, but number two, if someone attacked elections or, you know, whatever we call them, and they were successful, would they be able to penetrate our finance system?
No, they would not.
All right,
Their differences.
so if we're weak there, they can find out who our voters are, but not about anything about our money. or
Well, it's
anything
also
else.
FOIable, so why bother? You
Well, that's
get it
what I
when you
mean,
say
so-
it.
I mean, to me, I'm not concerned if someone wants to know who can vote.
Right. There were some, our password policies need to change a little bit more, and they recommended that I make some other changes, but they have to be reviewed, based on our VPN setup. I just can't wildly throw these changes. We need to be able to continue to work as we are. But we're investigating some of the state's recommendations, to see where they kind of fall in it. And they told us anytime if I want, I can have a meeting with them, because it's free.
How often do they come in to grade us?
Right now, this was just something they were trying to do it by allowing the state, and I don't know the answer to your question, Diane,
Okay.
so,
That's fine.
they didn't say. Right now, they're working on trying to get to all 169 towns. What they did say to us, though, was because we did partake in this exercise with them, that there may be some grant money that will be coming available that we will be able to apply for because we were part of the exercise.
You have to be part of the exercise.
Correct.
You'll probably get stuff in theory, so.
Yep. So we checked that box already, so that, you know, should the money become available and we want to make a move or apply for a grant, we don't have to worry about trying to schedule something, we're already there.
Thank you.
Well, they make Wi-Fi then? No, they're wired, they're what they call PoE cameras, power over Ethernet, they run off a network cable. But it will go out over the internet service, you'll be able to get to it from the cloud, but the cameras themselves are not one.
Do we have a subscription with an external auditor that's not the state? To run either pen testing or,
We used Clifton Larson, a year and a half ago, we could always have them come back. I've looked at a couple other companies, Clifton Larson was pretty pricey. I'm a member of the Region 5 Cybersecurity Task Force, we were talking with a couple other vendors that do pen testing and things like that. That may be less money. We budgeted for the same amount of dollars to have Clifton Larson do it, they did a good job. And we could have them come back at any time. You know, we just have to set up the access for them to come in and do it. And they run internal tests and then they can bang on our outside doors. For it, and then.
It was the test we had, the one through COG that was recommended.
Yes, the one that we just had, is through the state of Connecticut, elections division. Which was done by the Connecticut National Guard.
That's the one that Naugatuck Valley COG set it up.
Yes,
Okay.
that's all. Yep, and that was free of charge.
What do you do with the old equipment, and is there any salvage value?
The old equipment, we removed the hard drive, and every hard drive is kept in my office because there is data that's on it. And right now, they're being stored at the event center, potentially to be recycled. But conversations will be ongoing, as we know what the end game is going to happen with the event center. I've spoken to Pete. And we will most likely recycle it, but I've also been talking with Allison and Felix on the best way to handle getting the metal and components recycled properly for that we need to do. At this point, it's still in the discussion phase, but at some point Pete's gonna say, we're gonna be out of this building on this date and we're gonna act.
So you can't just wipe the data off of it and sell them somewhere?
You could, but it's also outdated hardware and I'm not gonna warranty anything and I wouldn't wanna sell something that's not gonna really work for somebody. They're gonna then come back to the town and expect us to warranty it. It's better off for us to pull the drive, keep the drive, just in case for statute of limitations, I need to get information off the drive and then just recycle the chassis. They're steel, they're plastic, they're copper, they're wood. That's in the boards.
So those drives aren't backed up
The
remotely?
old drives for the older hardware have been just pulled out. We have cradles that I can put the drive in and I can pull data from, and I've actually had to do that once or twice. Every workstation right now is backed up on our current backup system. So we actually have those and they sit in the cloud. But when I change out the hardware, if I'm gonna change out Chief Russell's computer, I will pull the drive out of his as he gets his new one. And it just goes in a box that says, this is Chief Russell, that's with this date. And it gets in the shelf, locked in my office. We have a lot of hard drives.
I was gonna say, you must have a function.
You can have the server drive from the servers that we reconditioned too, but you can't read those without the server.
So, Jeff, I'm assuming in your office under lock and key.
That's correct.
Yes, okay.
Yep, they're in the back room. 10 by 12 by 15, there's several boxes, and if you said, I wanna see a hard drive from somebody working DNA, I can find it, but don't expect me to find it fast.
So, Jim, I have a milk crate with about 10 of mine at home to stand.
There you go, we all have it.
Okay.
Personal.
Personal, oh, yeah, personal.
Okay.
The next item that I have that's new, upon request from, fire chiefs, was to put in some security doors. Now, we had brought this up for between the town hall several years ago. We had a meeting and we wanted to try to secure the doors and the access points at both headquarters and east side. We had Security 101 come out. They're the same company we use at PD that provide us with the Salto door locks. So basically, it's a little swipe card or something like that. The 32.5 is broken over two buildings. The headquarters is 17.5. And the east side is 15,000. That's with the wiring being done by our town electrician, Steve Russo. At a discounted rate, he will be provided the wire that's needed. And he will run it from, the two access points where they need to be, and then Security 101 will come in and install the actual locking mechanisms and work on the doors. It would have been cheaper, except for the fact that these are very old buildings. They are steel door jambs lined with concrete and brick, which is terribly difficult to get through. So there's a lot of time. But, the gentleman came out, he was very happy to be able to give us quotes. We walked the building, they did it with both chiefs, and we show everything that's there. We have 4 doors at the headquarters, which is the main access door by dispatch. There's a back door over, I still call it Cooks on the over, it's still Cooks in the back over there. There's a door over by the ladder. And then the door that actually faces town hall that's directly on Maple Street. Those are the 4 doors that would be armed. And we have 3 doors up at east side. You have a primary door, a secondary door, and a door over by fuel tank. I think we would. That would be. We would have a master key should one of the guys lose their keys or they head out and somebody needs to be able to get in the building to be able to do it. And obviously the chief will have 24-hour access.
Hey, Jim, I have one point, also with the East Side Fire Station, it's not just the fire department, but Jim's got a major network help. They're on internet, of course, right through the
It's
station.
in all the buildings. Actually, we should be doing this in every building, but I know our other buildings are fairly fluid, and I do have keys to Public Works, so I can get in there, because every building that has a computer in it has a network company. We've got a switch in there, we've got a rack, we've got a router. Typically, the fire departments are all their staff, but if they're out on a call and we have a problem, we need to be able to get in. Plus, these buildings need to be secure. We've got other people and other things that are going in there. There's been other discussions for other items, so. I was asked to get some quotes and I bring it before you to see what you think about it.
So these wire that's running is for the lock system or for the alarm?
This is a locking system. So these are type of magnetic doors like you would see at a bank, if you were going to a bank machine. You would actually have a little plastic sensor on the outside, you put your card in front of it, you hear the door click, you'll be able to enter it. It would then log who came in, because that card would be assigned to you or anybody else that was using it, the time, the date, and how long the door was open for. And when you exited, at that point, you'll be able to tell you what time that person exited, so you know who was in your building for how long. At this point, we need to be sure that, all of our buildings are secure, and basically it's a request. Paul, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I think you covered it.
All right, I just want to make sure, I don't want to short-sign anybody.
We want to enhance the security and get it down.
Yeah, and they run on my network, so, you know, there'll be servers, there'll be logs, we can tell you everything here. We wanted to do something like that here, we did replace the doors in the lobby. The board didn't feel at that time that it was worth funding, I think these are worthy projects for it, maybe at this time. And I broke them down into the building, it is one number, but I can give you the two different numbers, obviously. Headquarters is 17.5 and each side is 15.
Is there camera monitor those doors?
Right now, no. There will be, one of them is an additional camera that will then also monitor, so you have a secondary piece for that. But right now, the answer is no,
What's there now?
nothing.
Well, there's a,
There is a electronic
there's a
doorbell at the dispatch door, but if no one is at dispatch and the doors are locked, you're not getting in. That's, you know,
So it's secure.
it is secure. The problem is if I have to get in there, I gotta get in there. You know, and it's not just for me, it's for anybody else.
Right, anyone who needs.
That's there.
so how does a firefighter get into the building?
How does the firefighter get in the
We
building?
have keys.
Okay,
I don't know, because I don't have keys.
The regular key locks.
so currently they're using, a firefighter comes to work, he uses a key, and he gets into the, okay, all right.
Oh, we don't know how many copies of keys been made.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing, I just didn't know what was currently in place.
Yeah, and just,
Sounds like we need to give him a copy.
Huh?
Sounds like we need to give him a key.
Yeah, so what
Well, they'll
happened?
call anyway.
Home Depot run.
Yeah, so what happened in the last several years is we had, Mike Chatfield's truck was broken into and they took all the stuff. And then we had, our captain was working a 48-hour shift and they took his catalytic converter across the street. And then one of our new firefighters was gonna go up to the Connecticut Fire Academy. And, you know, we'll say this is his fault. He put his bag next to the department vehicle he was gonna drive. He ran inside to get the key, talked to the dispatch for a minute or two, and he came out, his bag was missing. And he couldn't figure out where his bag was until he realized his bag was over there and his car was not missing. And the person went through his bag, broke his key fob, and stole his car. So that's why we started this project to increase security. And we didn't have any cameras, we don't have anything. When we started the project, it was funded last year, I believe. We're in the process, we're working towards it. We're gonna have 4 cameras on the outside of the building, so we're making steps. That's why we want to also have cameras at the east side. Although recently, we haven't had any vehicles vandalized, but previously we have at the East Side Fire Station. So, you know, we want to get into the 2000s and have a camera on the front of the building, the back of the building, and at the side. And along with that, we want to go to better security for the officers.
So on this whiteboard, can you identify who swiped it?
Yes.
And then?
Yep.
And
Each
can you
person will
disarm
have
the
it.
card as well?
Can I disown the card?
Yeah, let's say that person is not here anymore, and just wanna.
Yes.
Delete them.
It's just like at the hospitals, right? Like
It is.
badges to get into med rooms.
It's exactly it. Right now, as a simple example, we use key fobs for, to get computer access remotely. One of these guys. If I don't get this back when somebody leaves, all we do is go and turn it off and you can't get in. So if you have, a swipe card, like, Megan said, if you have it for like the hospital, it has a serial number that's coded internally to it. We just go into the system and we deactivate it, and when you hit it at the door, instead of getting a green light, you get a red light and you're not there. But we also log it that you tried to get in. So. There's,
So if budget was unlimited, how many of these doors would you really need?
this is actually all of them.
Oh,
That's here. I mean, if it were limited, I would wanna do this building too, but for the fire department, those are the 4 access doors at HQ and the 3 access doors that they have over at East Side.
Does Kyle have these?
Good, Kyle? Yes.
I'm only asking because like they have pets and.
Yep.
All of that kind of stuff.
If you look down the road, there's a possible project with, Johnson Controls that may include, they're looking at, let me back up a little. Johnson Controls makes controls for HVAC, for building security, for any number of different types of controls you could have on the building, including security. So there is a possible, project that Johnson Controls wants to do in our town that might help us get control. And if that would be included, it would be great because we had a great increase in price and we could do the whole town. But that's, I think you heard of that project before. So that might include that. And, that's, would add on to what we have here. Jim wants every door in every building that we have in town.
It would make logical.
It would be,
sense to
it's
do that.
logical set, absolutely, and it'd be a good idea.
Can we get the doors for cheaper by ordering more doors?
Well,
Cause like this year it's
the thing is,
32.5
as we do
for
Well, these aren't
7.
actually the whole doors, these are the tools for the doors.
Right.
So we actually didn't have to replace any doors. Currently.
These are just
There
those
might be
little black
one.
boxes that go.
Yeah, it's the magnetics that actually
Gotcha.
allow the door to open and close.
Always things, divulge.
Yes, yeah, it's a large mechanism that's on there and it's a type of magnet that.
But is there discounted pricing for ordering more? Like, is it worth? I'd imagine it's 32.5 for 7 total. But if you're looking at this building and potentially others, and we need another 7, it's probably going to be way more expensive than what we are
That's
paying
the
this
door,
year.
that's the cost of the doors themselves.
Nobody get discount anymore because they're limited of material all around.
Well, the price this year is gonna be better than the price any future year.
That is also correct. I mean,
Right.
if we're
That's where I'm
considering
going with
that and
this,
you're
like,
giving me an
let's-
open pocketbook, then I will absolutely call them back and.
Well, I think it's
Take it
worth
right
knowing.
around.
I think it's worth knowing. I mean,
I
you
think
said
that's
it yourself,
right.
you wanna keep things all in the same setup. I mean, we do this and then 5 years down the line, you wanna add 5 or 6 doors. It might not even be the same setup and we gotta redo them all.
Right.
So.
Well, and I
technology's
agree
changing
with the
fast.
Obviously, this building was a wish a few years ago. I'm not sure where or how, when I talked to the, our mayor as to our direction, so I wanna make sure that I'm meeting.
Right.
Everything that we have there, obviously, the fire department is not going anywhere. That building, unless, Chief Russell knows something I don't, East Side's not going anywhere. It would be great. I don't know that I could put these locks, I'd have to talk to security 101 at a place like Tuttle, because of the historical nature of the building. I don't know how easily I could modify things to be able to make something like that work. Although the senior center could be added to it, because it's the building that we have, that I'm anticipating we will probably keep. Adding them to the public works buildings, because the networks are already there, so. Having, my centralized network already across town saves them money that we would normally have to put in for that, because the infrastructure is in. It's the additional wiring and then the actual door locks.
Right.
That need to be added to it. I would have to confer with the mayor on whether he would want to do this building or not.
Which building?
This building.
I wanna get rid of it.
Okay.
Me too.
Well, can I ask then about the EMS building? Is that potentially moving or is that something we should
Yes,
look
it's
into then?
definitely moving.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
And
So the
these
building
aren't
is-
something that we can take with us. They're pretty much.
right, well, that's why I'm asking. So the building that it's moving to, does it already have secure doors?
Have no-
It's not built yet.
absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Remind me to put it in the spec.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if we're doing
that's
like
what we do.
fire, it only
Yeah.
makes sense to then add EMS to it. I mean,
Fire's gonna, I mean, anything could change, but the fire station and the police station are gonna stay.
yeah,
Some of the other buildings,
we've got these like
I know.
nice new ambulances that were lots of money that,
Yeah, but we don't know the design of the new building yet. I mean, we don't know
Okay.
anything
so
about it
we
yet.
went to look at a building. We know what we want.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of.
we just don't know what's gonna end up.
yeah.
It's a $6 million, it would be approximately 6 million to have a super duper top notch public works building and ambulance building. With a much better layout. So, right now, we're exploring all types of grants and the bond commission and all types of things, so, we'll see.
That's all I have. Anybody else have any other questions?
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Chief Russell, you're up.
Hi. Hi, thank you, everybody. As everybody knows, Deputy Chief Hanks and I and Assistant Chief Paul Stevens spent a lot of time on preparing both the budget and the capital. And we also had input from the officers, the firefighters, and especially our mechanics for some of their items. And our master mechanic is DJ Hawks, and he is sitting here. He looks very enthusiastic and ready to answer any questions. So if you have any questions about mechanical stuff, feel free to ask him, stop. We can try to explain anything that I don't. So the first thing for us is our air pack replacement program. And I think we started that in about 2016, I believe. Anyway, we started putting away some money for SCBAs. SCBAs stand for self-contained breathing apparatus. That's our air packs that firefighters use a lot. We use them a lot. And anyway, we have 40 SCBAs, and they are very expensive. And we came up initially with a program to replace 2 a year. And that's what initially we asked for, and the board has been funding. But after about our second or third year, we realized that that wasn't gonna work for us. That wasn't gonna work to have 2 air packs every year, because there is a change in the standard. And when they change that standard, which is usually every 5 years, they change how the air packs work and function. So we didn't wanna have such a hodgepodge of different SCBAs. And what we decided to do was, we're going to get them every 5 years, we're gonna purchase 10. And we've talked to Allison about this, and that's what we were able to do at the beginning of this fiscal year, was we purchased 10 with the money that we had budgeted previously for the last 5 budget cycles. So we're gonna we continue with that program. The only thing that we didn't do initially, is we didn't try to forecast what the price would be in 5 years when we purchased those 10. So if you look at this year compared to last year, it looks like a significant jump. What we did was we took the price, and we added 4% to it every year for 5 years. So we came up with that 21,656, and that is the number we're going to ask for the next 5 years. And then on that 5th year is when we will buy our next 10 SCBAs. It's a great program. Thank you for continued funding it for us. And it works really well. So, we'd like to continue doing that. Does anybody have any questions with that?
Jump in, Dave.
I'm in 100% favor of that. I think it's a great idea. So the 16,000, 16,700, and 17,800, is that for 2 packs? Or
2 packs.
So that's not much of a jump to get 10.
No, I'm sorry. We're still putting away money for 2.
Oh, you're just putting money
each year.
away, okay.
For 5 years.
God, I was
Okay.
confused too. I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
Sorry.
really not bad.
I didn't explain that well. No, so every 5 years,
Okay.
we're gonna buy 10.
okay,
So,
all right.
and we just did that this year. We bought our first 10. And wait 5 more years. Just we're putting a little money away in that account.
That makes perfect sense, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, and then the next item on the list is replace rescue equipment. Everybody's heard of the Jaws of Life, and that's a hydraulic rescue system that has been very famous since like the '60s. It probably came out, or maybe the '70s. And anyway, we have used that, but what is happening now is they are the industry is changing to hydraulic, which are battery operated rescue tools. They have a lot of advantages to them. They are more powerful. They are lighter weight. They're easier to maintain, and the board has started funding that back, several years ago. So this year, what we're gonna add to the fleet is we're gonna replace one of our Rams. And this, hydraulic Ram is actually gonna replace, 3 of the hydraulic Rams. So instead of getting 3 of the hydraulics, we're getting 1 battery operated hydraulic. Which also it's amazing, science is amazing to me. We have a battery about this big and it produces, I think it's like 10,800 PSI. So, battery operated are way better. I wasn't sold on it at first, but it is amazing. And, one of the things I like is that they say you can take one of these batteries, put it on the shelf. And a year later, you come to it and the battery is still at 96% charge. Which is amazing. I have trouble keeping my cell phone charged. So this whole system works really well. Anyway,
That's why you bought a new cell phone.
that's why I had to buy a new cell phone, because my battery kept going bad. I forgot to charge it. Just put it on the shelf. I should have just put it on the shelf for a year. Anyway,
I should.
so that is the next piece that we're going to ask for. And that's for $15,000.
Is this battery rechargeable?
Oh, yeah.
How
Yes,
long the battery will last, you think?
several hours in constant use. Yeah,
How many
Yeah.
cycles can the battery go? Like full charge to dead, full charge to dead is a cycle, so,
I don't know that answer.
cause that'll help determine the lifespan. I mean, obviously, you're not hopefully
Yeah.
using the machine every day
No, we're not.
to save someone or something, but.
And then we always have extra batteries with us. And the
Yeah.
great thing about these also is that, say you were absolutely dead in the water and they didn't work, you can plug power into them and then they will work off of regular electricity. So most of our fire apparatus have generators, but we would still be able to plug them in and still use.
Hydraulic,
Perfect.
go for something with it.
Yeah,
And I'm assuming there's some kind of warranty or battery life replacement program if this did burn out.
yeah.
Okay.
Have you done a survey on them, how long they last and
The batteries themselves.
the whole unit, the battery included the unit? So is there any defect on them or?
There hasn't been, they work great, and I gotta tell you, the whole entire industry is switching to this. So, we had a problem with one of ours broke, one of our power units broke. And when we called up for parts, I think DJ said the guy giggled, because nobody is doing hydraulic anymore. That's a dying, technology. So we actually went to the basement, took an old one, and brought it up and put it in service for now.
Is this a new product on the market or has it been out for a while?
It's probably been out for 10 years, probably 10 years. And like I said, when we first started this, I wasn't sold on it. They had to convince me. But it's better, stronger, and faster.
Cause everything works good when it's new, like after a couple of years,
Yep,
then you see all the defects on it. and-
yep, nope, there have been no defects. Everybody's still very happy with them, and everybody in the industry, we get trade magazines, we talk to everybody, this is what everyone's on.
Okay.
All right, the next item is ventilation fans. And again, this is kind of the same conversation we'll have, is that our ventilation fans, most of them are over 30 years old. The new ones, just like I said, and it's just the same with the hydraulic rescue tools, these fans are lighter, they're way more powerful, and they're portable. We use these fans in any fire, smoke condition, carbon monoxide fall. We use fans a lot. And we are switching over to battery operated ones. We just had, sounds like the same story, but it's true again, is that we had one of these break and we had to go downstairs and we took a fan that was in our basement. They used to be on our 47 ladder truck. And we brought that back up and of course it weighed 1,000 pounds figuratively. But anyway, so we had purchased one of these last year. Again, it's the way to go. So we're requesting to buy 2 more of these fans, so we can, take the ones that are over 30 years old and, replace them. So. Any questions? Yeah. Okay. Steve Kelly, I guess either knows about the top of his head or looked it up, but there's over 1,000 cycles for the batteries.
Thank you.
So,
Chief, these newer, battery operated, red fan. You're saying the old ones weigh a ton, these are way less, they're a lot less, you know, so it's been on your back and so forth.
that's correct, yeah, they're lighter, but they're stronger. So it's, as I said, I'll never understand how a little battery can produce like 10,000
No,
PSI.
and we had this conversation before that we were amazed by, you know, what they do. And 10 years ago, we would never even consider getting a battery operated as opposed to a hydraulically operated or something. And it's just, you know, technology is in some ways better.
Yeah, absolutely. So next item on the list is water supply valves, and it's a project we started last year. We bought newer valves, we did a lot of training with our mutual aid companies. And we realized we could have been and can be much more efficient the way we flow water and in non-hydrated areas. Basically, these are big valves with 4-inch connections on one side, 2.5s on the other, 3 2.5s with gated valves. And they help us in non-hydrated areas where we have to flow water. These are valuable to us. So that's why our request for 5,800 for that. The next thing is our power saws. And find my list there, we're asking for 2 rotary saws. One of them is because our east side engine doesn't have one on it. A rotary saw is what we use to cut metal. Example, garage doors, gates, locks. And the other one is somewhere between 25 and 30 years old. So that's why we're asking for 2 rotary saws. And our chainsaws, which are also old. And when we purchased them, they were homeowner type saws. And for chainsaws, ventilation saws, they have to work every time. They have to start right away. And that's why we want to replace them. 2 better ones, newer ones that are a little better. The next thing is to replace our rapid intervention rescue packs. What those packs are for is if a firefighter or a civilian goes down, the team that's going to go in to help them grabs these packs. It has a bottle, it has connections, and runs in and gives air to the people, the firefighter who is down. The 2 that we have that we'll be replacing are obsolete. What piggybacked on the SCBA, and when they changed the standard, they changed the fittings, and some of the things can't be retrofitted. So that's why we're requesting the money to replace those packs. Unfortunately, we did have a situation where one of our guys got hurt at a fire. He called Mayday, and we had to go in and get him out of the call. That was the gentleman who's out of work for over 6 months. He had a significant injury. This is a situation where we would have used this, but on that particular fall, he ended up falling on a flight of stairs, and where he ended up, that was not a smoke-filled environment. But this is what we would have used to keep him on air while we packaged it, got him out of the building. Next thing on the list is the grip hoist rescue kit. A grip hoist, you can kind of say it's like a portable winch come along. We had a situation where we had a car accident on the highway, and we tried to use our rams to push the car away. It was up against the Jersey barrier, and we weren't able to move the car. And if we had one of these, we would have been able to. So it's called a it's new and a replacement, and the other thing it will replace is we have a winch on our rescue truck that is due, to be replaced, in 2025. So, we're not gonna order one on the rescue truck, and this is a portable one, and it can be used in a lot of different, situations. Any questions? Okay, put everybody to sleep, right? Okay, all right.
Paul. The rescue truck is still gonna be good for another year before you do it?
The rescue truck's still gonna be good, yes. Yes.
So if you order that thing, it's gonna take 2 years, right? Or 3?
Take 2 years, yes.
And the rest of the engines are okay with the refurbishment?
Yes. I'm gonna talk about that next, Jim.
All right, go.
The next two items, and I'll talk about them together, is it says, refurbish engine 4 and refurbish engine 3. It's two projects, they're kind of similar, but they're a little different. So we have engine 4, which is 2008, and that has a lot of corrosion. And, last year, we send every one of our fire apparatus to get a DOT certification. It has to be checked and it has to be certified that it is roadworthy and it's safe. And we're required to do that every year. Last year, the person we sent it to was very hesitant to give us that certification because there was so much rust underneath on the undercarriage and the frame and whatever. And we had to take it to another vendor, the manufacturer, and they looked at it and they said, no, we will give you that DOT certification. But you're gonna have to put it on the list, you're gonna have to get this fixed, because it's only gonna get worse. So that's why are we asking for engine 4, and that is because it has so much corrosion underneath. We have to get this done, and we have to stop this from getting worse. Corrosion just keeps getting worse. But when they do that, what they do is they remove the hose bed, they remove all the plumbing, they remove the water tank, they take everything out, and then they'll sand and repaint and go through everything that they have to, and they'll turn around and they'll reinstall everything back. So engine 3, which is 5 years newer, it does have corrosion. It's not to the extent of engine 4, but it does have some, I guess I'd call it pretty significant corrosion, not as bad as engine 8. But the problem with engine 3 is the water tank has shifted. And instead of resting on its rubber isolators, it's now resting on the steel subframe. And that's not a good situation at all, to have the tank just rubbing on steel. So although engine 8 has worse corrosion, engine 3 has to get the water tank fixed. And when they repair the water tank, they're gonna basically do the same thing they're gonna do on engine 8 by taking the hose bed off, taking the things off, I'm sorry, engine 4, sorry. Take the hose bed off, take the water tank off, and everything is gonna be right there. So our point is that they should, and they recommend doing the same thing for that corrosion. So
these are prices you got from them.
yes,
Yeah.
and here's,
Who is them?
it's the place up in Watertown, down tonight, we go to a lot. What we would do is we put it out for bid. There are a couple of companies who would probably bid on this. So,
Is this truck undercoated? The cross prevention?
yeah, and we have a whole program of every single year. We take them, we power wash them, we apply ironclad to the frame, to everything underneath. We've talked to a lot of people in the industry and they're like, you're really doing everything you're supposed to do. There's not really anything else you could do. And, so.
I mean, with all the stuff they put on the roads, it's hard because, look at cars these days, right? Your cars are rotting away from the frame. Same thing happens with fire. The thing with a fire truck is, if I lose an air tank, I lose the truck, possibly jeopardize the guy's safety, right? So the air tank is what supplies air to the brakes. On engine 4, all the air tanks are starting to rot out. All the hardware that holds the tanks on, it's all starting to rot out. The subframes, everything, they're all starting to go. Like the chief was saying with the ironclad. Ironclad has been on all of our trucks. I've been a mechanic for 3 years. I want to say 15, 20 years we've been putting it on. It's been that long. Every April, May, trucks go out, they get power washed. Everything underneath, they go in a big pit, they get power washed. Once they're power washed, they get dried, ironclad gets reapplied. The reason why I do it in April is because everything that was accumulated over the winter, washes it off, sets it up, and we're good for another year. It's a messy process. It's not fun to be under there when they do it, but anybody I've talked to, there's 3 different companies that do it. There's Ironclad, there's Fluid Film, and there's New Hampshire's Best. Those are the 3 companies. We're all gonna tell you their product is great, product's the best thing since sliced white bread. They all work the same. Nothing is better than anything else. It's just, there's nothing else we can do, must happen. We prevent it the best we can. I'm under the trucks all the time cleaning.
It's just not a question. I don't wanna be a bad guy.
Yeah,
How long is this refurbishment take? It's like a year process to like take apart, do all that stuff?
months, probably a month to a month and a half, probably.
Oh, it's that quick.
Yeah,
That was a little longer. My thought process was looking at just purchasing new trucks, because it's not that much less expensive to the annual lease payment. $65,000 versus $100,000 for 10 years. I mean,
I'm good, I'm definitely good.
Cheap down that.
I mean, I say a month, but it might be 11.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear about?
I wouldn't know until I actually called them and started putting everything down.
Right.
I mean, these are rough guesstimates, rough quotes.
I mean, these are old trucks. I wouldn't drive a car this old. Why would we consider a truck this old? I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. It's a little, it's crazy to me that it's this old and it's still running. And that it's saving our lives, so.
We have a plan for how many years
Yeah.
to replace the whole fleet that was, negotiated, agreed to, seems to be safe. And, we're how many years into it? 3 or 4 years into it?
Yeah.
So, like in my mind, that plan works, it's safe, and we should stick to it.
Yeah,
And I, I don't know if you disagree, but that's what we
Yeah.
thought would work.
I would say that I agree with Mayor, and we have made incredible progress with our fire apparatus. I mean, we had issues, and Mayor Pete and the finance board decided to fund the project. And we got a new engine in 2019, we got the ladder truck in 2021. We were supposed to get an engine in 2023, but now it's not gonna be here until January of 2024. We're going to hopefully be ordering a rescue truck, hopefully in a few months when we get everything, and that's supposed to come in 25 or 26. And Tom Noggin is doing a lot of heavy lifting in a short amount of time to fund fire apparatus. And after we do that, like the rescue that we're talking about, that's next on the list, that's a 2000. Okay, so I know you didn't like 2008, 2013s, but our rescue truck is a 2000. And so it's 22 years old. And, You know, but it is, they're incredibly expensive and we maintain them as best we can. We do every single thing that anybody recommends we do. We don't cut any corners, any service we need to get done. Our mechanic is, watches the hours. If the manufacturer says you service it every 50 hours, we service it. I mean, we do everything we're supposed to, but it's just incredibly expensive. Our ladder truck was $1.5 million thereabouts. I mean, it's a lot of money. I mean, I get it. TJ and I,
It's an annual lease payment, so it's like $100,000 a year.
it is.
To me, that's not a lot when we're looking at a 10-year agreement. If it was $1.5 million in this budget, yeah, pump the brakes on it, but we're talking $1.5 million over 10 years. It's
Chief Paul,
Yes,
do you
Yes.
hear me?
yep.
Is that rescue truck gonna be good for that long, or it should be? There wasn't that many miles on it, right?
Correct, and we actually didn't buy that new either, Chad. That was a demo, when we bought it. So,
But it's in pretty good shape.
it's okay.
I'm just wondering if you should buy an engine instead of the rescue truck again.
No, I would disagree. No, I think that the plan that we developed, the rescue truck should go next. One of the things I'm a big proponent for, and people have heard me talk about this, and if you knew you haven't, is I like airbags. I think airbags are a great thing. And, like the rescue truck does not have airbags, and our new
Well,
apparatus.
I'd like two extra firemen sitting in the back of the cab if they could too. But I'm just wondering about the difference between an engine and a truck,
He's shaking his head no, Jim.
Is that
Right?
right?
But, well, that's what it looked like.
All right, I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it alone at that. I'll pass to your judgment, Paul.
Thank you. And then for this
Thank you for
2008,
the question.
I'm sorry.
My only concern about this, I'm in all favor of this, okay? But should we do it now? If this is as bad as it is, I remember Waterbury, and I don't wanna live Waterbury.
Yeah,
And so, should we be doing this now? I know you don't wanna touch your contingency, I'm not saying that,
Do
but
what now?
get this fixed now. If we have serious issues with these trucks with corrosion and you're talking about the air brakes, I don't think we should be waiting until next budget season.
Well, is it an emergency?
It's not an emergent today.
Right.
Needs to be addressed sooner rather than later,
Okay,
not today,
Okay.
but sooner rather than later.
okay, then I leave it to you as the expert, that's fine. I wanted to make sure that,
I know,
Okay,
you're talking about corrosion. I'm thinking like you're falling on the bottom as it's driving down the road.
which is
Like,
what
that's what I'm-
1994 Jeep, we
Right.
lost the floorboard.
It's not that bad yet.
Okay.
If we address it sooner rather than later, we're gonna avoid that.
So if this gets approved in this budget year, so now starting July 1 is quote unquote when the money will be there, is that plenty of time for what you need to do?
We're gonna be okay.
Okay, then that's fine.
If you didn't put water in the tanks, the trucks wouldn't be so heavy and it wouldn't wear out the brakes.
If we took the equipment off the truck, they wouldn't be so heavy. either.
There you go.
We wouldn't wear out the brakes.
Problem solved.
and if the public works didn't put the salt right on the roads. I mean, that's a big issue.
Remember a long time ago in the galaxy far, far away, there was, and not that this would be a solution, but there was a presentation about, I forget what you call them, but there was some type of metal plates that you put under your vehicles and it absorbed a lot of the corrosion. And it was very, I don't wanna say it was cheap, but it wasn't expensive. And supposedly it added years and years to
What
everything
happened
underneath.
with those there, and you compare me out, they were put in place as an experiment to keep the corrosion, but the moisture from the brine or whatever is kicking up and get in there, and then you can't wash it out, and it actually.
It wasn't like a big plate, they were just little
Right,
things
and
like
it created
this.
more of a problem, because the moisture.
So it didn't, in other words, that technology didn't work?
It almost was the reverse. Because if you get moisture in and you can't get it out, and it has the brine on it, that's gonna keep eating away, and all the power washing you want, you can get it out.
Well, everybody makes new product and they sell it till it fails, you know, and then by the time it fails, they make their money already. and
Yeah,
they're
and
gone.
they're-
So I know exactly what you're talking about. It was on one of my car and same thing, they throw it from the inside and when it actually falls through the broken.
and some of the older undercoating jobs they used to do would fill in the little holes that would drain the water out. And it would actually cause a problem. Because sometimes when they did it, they didn't go over the car again and then reopen up all those little ports and then drain. And, you know, your car was like, an old Chevy Vega or a Ford Pinto with the top of the fenders rusted out. But I
Hey,
remember
Paul?
talking about that.
You have a question? Yes,
Paul,
yes.
Bob Nuth.
Hi, Bob.
Are those, is that those two items, the ones that we had talked about the other day?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And did you contact Allison regarding that issue?
I did.
And what was the outcome?
Allison, you know what we're talking about?
We're not, we can't determine if the fleet fund can sustain major repair jobs like that right now.
To run it through the vehicle program.
Right?
The other question would be, would it be feasible to run it through the 5-year capital project committee?
It's not really a capital project.
Well, I don't know why it wouldn't be, but $130,000 to refurbish 2 fire trucks that would cost us $2 million.
Vehicles aren't really a capital item like a building.
Okay.
It's a matter of legal talk there, Allison, is that why?
Generally accepted accounting principles.
Yeah.
Okay,
GA,
thank you.
open option.
That's higher than God, isn't it?
Yeah. Basically.
And, that's all I have. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. One more,
We have one more that's not on the, you don't have on your printouts?
it's not on my printout, I don't know why, because it's important, right, Kyle?
Yes.
When you email, right?
Yes.
There's just two more.
I'm sorry. Oh, it's not funding Naugatuck ambulance. Or a new ambulance at $125,000.
If I may,
Hi,
just,
Kyle.
hey, everyone.
Hi, Kyle.
Yeah, we're looking to replace one of, our 2006 ambulances, one of which we've had a lot of problems with over the last, 8 to 10 months. It's been out of service more than it's been in service. Obviously with the 2006, it's constantly running in the call volume we have. It gets a lot of wear and tear. So we're looking to replace one of the two of those at, about 125,000 based off of what the last one was. That is a van style transit ambulance, an all-wheel drive ambulance, so to help with the train in the area where we are. Not bells and whistles, basically, it'd be a mid-mount, all-wheel drive Ford Transit. The last time we looked at ordering, they were talking about 18 months. We lucked out, it was a little bit sooner than that. I don't know what the time frame is nowadays. Things have gotten a little bit better vehicle wise, so hopefully it'll be the same.
Equipped, like stretcher.
So we would take the stretcher that we have currently, we have a grant in pending right now to equip it with, what we call power load, to lift the stretcher up, mechanically, and put it in backs and saving on injuries. Fingers crossed we get that, we don't have to worry about, that purchase alone, just for the lift without a stretcher is about $30,000. And the stretcher itself is about $25,000. So we have a grant currently to add a power load to our fleet, as well as 2 new stretchers to cycle out the old ones that we have, which will bring the stretchers and the power loads up. So there's a power load in all of our vehicles, as well as up-to-date stretchers, and some of the newer, 2 of the newer model stretchers that have a little bit more functionality to them. And again, the power loads and the power lift on the stretcher. So the ambulance would come with, it would be wired appropriately to be able to have that power load fit into it, for the most part, easily. But that is a base model, compared to some of the other models that they're looking at 350 to 400,000 each. I think for us right now.
So you said you had some trouble with these vehicles. What kind of trouble were you having? Any
So-
trouble, transmission?
2 of the vehicles that we have were new to us. They were used, new to us though. And they had been doing very well. One of them has been doing fantastic. Just recently started having some mechanical issues, and typically it's been engine problems. So these diesels are 6.0s. I'm not a mechanic, but I know the 6.0.
Can you just let everybody see your head shaking?
No.
I'm not a mechanic. I don't like to get dirty. The 6.0s have had nothing but problems over the last several years. And that's everywhere. That's not just here. From high pressure waters to main seals and all kinds of things like that. And what we call 88.3 is the one that we've been having a lot of engine issues with. It's probably been back and forth to the dealer we bought it from and the Ford dealer that they use in the last 10 months, probably 15 times. At least for decent durations, 2, 3, 4 weeks like that.
Are they diesel again?
So the 2 that we have now are diesel, and we're looking to replace that with a gas. The last Ford Transit we got was a gas also.
No, you have to, remember, this is 2006.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so both of them are 2006s. One has about 120,000 miles and the other has about 148.
That's not a lot.
No, I don't feel like that, you know.
Not a lot, but one thing to find in like emergency training, where it's fire apparatus, police vehicles, it's not so much the miles, because you go from like a piece of fire apparatus, you go from here to Lantern Park, and then you're gonna be idling, or actually when you're pumping, the engine's gonna be revving. And it's the hours on it more so than the actual miles, because your miles might be short run, but all that idle time and everything that.
Can I answer that question for you?
Absolutely.
On a diesel motor or a gas motor, every 1 hour of idle time is 33 miles out of the motor. So when you take a look at it, you take your hours, multiply that by 33, that's how many, and then add it to your odometer. That's how many miles that motor actually has on it.
I mean, you idle outside some places for.
Once
30.
those trucks leave
Yeah.
the garage, they're out and they don't show up.
And it's been running since 2006.
Correct.
And the amount of mutual aid, you know, that we're doing now, we can't have crews getting stuck in Beacon Falls, Middlebury, Waterbury, and then they're out of service.
Yeah, those 2 trucks, since we've got them, we've averaged about in the last year, 14 months or so, about 35,000 miles in both of those trucks.
And
that's-
odometer miles.
Yeah, that's not the idle miles,
Correct.
right?
Both those vehicles we used in smaller services before we got them, and now we're a busy service
Yeah,
using more.
So you're asking for 125,000 for a ambulance. And then I'm looking here, E11 for 60,000. Is that what you were talking about, the stretchers or the power lifts?
I don't know what, that'd be my car. Oh, yeah, so that was something different. That was, so we have 4 ambulances and we have 3, what we call quick response cars. That is a replacement for that. That wasn't something that I was looking at right now. Right now, I'm looking at the 125 for the ambulance.
Okay, and then you mentioned you're wanting power lifts for other ambulances. Is that this year or other years?
So we have 1 ambulance left that does not have a power load in it. My hope is that the grant that we submitted for funds that,
Okay, all
as
right.
well as replaces. So on that capital list, on that line, on that printout, there's a few, there's stretchers, there's stair chairs, there's power loads. I also have a grant in for 2 stair chairs to replace. So
Okay.
my hope, fingers crossed, is that.
Oh, which grant is that?
So we have an Ion Bank grant that we just
Yeah, okay.
submitted for the stair chairs, and we have an AFG grant that we submitted for the power load and 2 stretchers.
Thank you for clarification.
Chief, one question, this 2006, that has a power load in it,
Yes,
and that will be put into one of the other vehicles.
Correct.
So, and then if you get the one with the grant, then it'll be,
correct, that'll be our 4.
yeah, good.
Does that vehicle have a lot of corrosion on it as well? or not?
It does, it's got a substantial, I mean, it's a 2006, it's always on the road, it's always running. We try to do a good job, to clean them off and spray them down as best we can, but it's there, the corrosion's there. They're not falling apart, knock on wood, but you can see the corrosion, you can see the rust.
So they work replacing the engine and continue it? or not?
So one of the trucks has already had an engine replaced. And one of the trucks has had a substantial amount of engine work. The chassis on it is in 2006. You replace the engine on it, and you still have a 2006 chassis with everything else on it. Transmission, everything that goes along with it. You know. On the flip side to that, there are options to do remounts with ambulances, to take the boxes off and put them on a brand new chassis. They're around about the same amount of money nowadays, if not a little bit more.
You're better off starting from scratch.
Correct.
More questions for Kyle?
Thank you.
You have a good Kyle, thank you. Is there any other?
I have 2 things.
Sure.
One, no PD capital requests.
No,
That was in with the IT budget.
Okay.
Yeah, he did this
And
year.
secondly, Bob Neff, Mayor, Allison, I went back in my email and I apologize. I did get that email. It was during my mother's surgery and I was losing my mind. So Bob Neff, my apologies to you for totally losing my mind earlier in the meeting, to you, Mayor, to you, Allison.
No
But-
problem.
Tell me I was sitting next to you.
I lost my crap and I apologize. I did find it.
all right.
You know, it's up-
Allison, just have one more thing, when I submitted my budget, I did put in the capital request for, identification card printer related equipment and supplies.
I don't remember seeing it. I will say, Fran, it's there and I didn't see it. How's that? Let's just go right to
Well,
the chase.
since my department has never put any for capital, I can see how it could be easily overlooked.
We can add it to the DPW round
Okay.
in a couple of weeks.
Okay,
Okay.
it's just that, let everyone know, it's just, our identification, our ID card for employees, volunteers and so forth is antiquated, to say the least. And it really has to come into, maybe we'll get it up to the 20th century, not quite into the 21st century, but, and the, no, and this is something that could be compatible with any security system that, security access system that Jim is looking at. So it would be identification, access control, and credentialing would all be in one card. And I know we talked to Chief Hanks about this earlier, and the state did offer a program like that, and it's just like a lot of these state programs fell by the wayside. And I was hoping for the past 2 years to get away without having this type of system. But it's approximately, I put in $5,000. And it would have to credentials encrypted in there of each firefighter. For example, what if they have hazmat certification and everything? And that would be if we had a major incident. And what would happen is as the firefighters are going in or as their cards are scanned and I would know who has had hazmat certification, who has, who's an EMT, who's not an EMT. And, yeah, on a day-to-day basis, we don't leave that, but major incidents we do. And right now, we basically have, when I say antiquated, a very antiquated system that was passed down from the fire department to HR and then on, and it doesn't have the proper safeguards in it that we should have. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for tonight? Next week is on the 27th is the Board of Education budget. Everyone get their books. And we'll be meeting out at the Board of Ed. There will be a different Zoom link, right, Jim?
It should be, but you can use the same Zoom link if you wish, when they start their meeting there.
Okay.
We'll discuss that and maybe have any.
You have the book, right?
Okay. And we'll adjourn the meeting.
What?
Sorry.
I have one.
We're adjourning at what time?
8:03 during the meeting.
8:03, and I'm stopping the recording.
Oh, it's good.
Keep